I am 83 years old. I wake up every single morning in my own bed, in my own home, on my own terms. No one tells me when to eat. No one tells me when to sleep. No one tells me what to watch on television or how loud to play my music. And let me tell you something that took me decades to finally believe with my whole chest. Living alone is not something to be pitied. It is something to be celebrated. So if someone has looked at you with sad eyes and whispered, "Oh, you live alone," this one is for you. Pull up a chair. I've got 8 things I want you to hear. Before I go any further, I just want to say something to you. If you've been watching these videos, enjoying them, or finding even a little comfort in them, I truly appreciate you being here. And if you haven't subscribed to Wisdom of Age yet, I'd love for you to join us. It's a small step, but it really helps this channel grow and reach more people who need it. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Has living alone ever surprised you in a good way? Maybe with a kind of peace you didn't expect? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them and they truly mean a lot. I eat breakfast at 7:15, not 7, not 7:30, 7:15, because that is the exact moment I want to eat it. The eggs are done, the toast is warm, and I am ready. Nobody is asking me to wait. Nobody is telling me the food is getting cold because they are not dressed yet. Nobody is changing the plan at the last second. 7:15 every morning, mine. I take my walk after lunch because my knees feel better then and the neighborhood is quiet and the light falls just right through the old oak trees on the corner. I come home and I sit for a while. Just sit. Not because I have nothing to do, but because sitting quietly in the middle of the afternoon is something I choose. And choosing it freely, without guilt, without someone raising an eyebrow, that is a feeling I cannot fully put into words. I nap when my body asks for rest, not when the schedule permits it, not during the approved window of acceptable rest, when my body asks. Because at this stage of life your body has wisdom your mind sometimes ignores, and living alone finally gave me the space to listen to it. I read until midnight if the chapter is good. I have stayed up past 1 in the morning with a novel that simply refused to let me go, and not a single soul was there to sigh at me or click off the lamp. Just me and the story and the stillness of the night. That is what people do not understand when they look at a woman living alone and feel sorry for her. They think the absence of others means an absence of fullness. But what I have found is the complete opposite. When every hour belongs to you, truly belongs to you, you start filling those hours with intention, with meaning, with the small, specific joys that make you you. Your routine is not a prison when you build it yourself. It is a rhythm. It is a song you composed for your own life, and every single day you get to conduct it exactly the way you want. That, my dear, is not loneliness. That is living. You know, I have been thinking a lot about peace lately, not the kind of peace you pray for during hard times. I mean the kind that just settles over you like a warm blanket on a cold morning. The kind that nobody can hand you. You have to create it yourself. And I want to tell you, living alone gave me that peace in a way nothing else ever did. I used to live in a house full of noise, beautiful noise, yes, children, grandchildren, always someone needing something, always a door slamming or a television too loud in the next room, and I loved every bit of it. I did, but I never once had a moment that was entirely, completely mine. Now I open my windows every single morning and I hear birds, just birds, and the wind, and sometimes the sound of my own breathing, and I think this is mine. I drink my tea while it is still hot. I sit with my thoughts and nobody interrupts them. Nobody rushes me toward the next task or the next obligation. Peace is not emptiness, my dear. Do not let anyone tell you that. Peace is not what is missing. Peace is what finally arrived the moment everyone else left. It is freedom wearing a quiet coat. And at my age, having earned every single wrinkle on this face, every sore morning, every hard year behind me, I deserve that quiet. And so do you. Because here is what I know for certain. A woman who owns her peace cannot be easily shaken. She cannot be easily diminished. She wakes up on her own terms, and she means it. Now, I want to talk about something that surprised me more than anything else when I started living alone. Something I was not prepared for. Something that crept up on me quietly and then hit me all at once like a gust of cold, clarifying wind. I discovered strength I did not know I had. The first time the pipe under my kitchen sink started leaking, water spreading across that linoleum floor at 10 o'clock at night, I will be honest with you. I stood there for a full minute, just staring at it. And my first thought was the same thought so many of us have been conditioned to have our entire lives. I thought, who is going to fix this? I looked around that kitchen, and there was nobody. Just me and a wet floor and a decision to make. And then something shifted. Something deep and quiet shifted inside of me. And I thought, me, I am going to fix this. I got the towels. I found the water shutoff. I called the plumber first thing the next morning, described the problem clearly, managed the entire situation from beginning to end, and when that plumber left and the pipe was fixed and my kitchen was dry, I stood in that same spot where I had panicked the night before, and I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt capable, not just capable of handling a leaking pipe, capable of life, capable of facing whatever walked through that door without waiting for someone else to take the lead. And that feeling, that quiet, unshakable sense of your own ability, it does not leave you once it arrives. It becomes part of how you carry yourself. It becomes part of how you speak, how you decide, how you face each new morning. Because living alone does that to a woman. It removes the safety net, and then it shows you that you never needed it as much as you thought. Every bill you manage, every appointment you keep, every difficult phone call you make, every problem you solve with nothing but your own two hands and your own good sense, each one of those moments adds a brick to something solid being built inside of you. And I want you to hear this clearly, especially if you are newly alone and frightened and wondering how you will manage. You will not just manage, my dear. You will rise. You will surprise yourself in ways you cannot yet imagine. The woman who waits to be rescued slowly disappears, and in her place stands someone far more interesting, someone far more powerful, someone who does the rescuing herself. And you know, once you discover that strength living inside of you, once you stop waiting for someone else to step in and you start stepping in yourself, something else begins to happen, something quieter, something deeply personal. You begin to look around at your home and you realize, perhaps for the very first time, that this space, every corner of it, every shelf, every color on every wall, finally, truly, completely reflects you. My living room has 3 rocking chairs, not 2, not 1, 3, because I like options, and because sometimes a chair just feels right in the morning and wrong in the afternoon and perfect again by evening. I have a stack of crossword books on the side table that nobody has ever asked me to tidy away. I have photographs covering an entire wall, every person I have ever loved, every moment I have ever wanted to hold on to, just there, open and unapologetic, for no one to see but me and whoever I choose to invite in. My kitchen smells like lavender and cinnamon, not because anyone requested it, not because I was trying to impress a single soul, but because lavender and cinnamon make me feel calm and warm and at home in my own skin. And that is reason enough. That has always been reason enough. I just did not always have the freedom to act on it. When you share a home with others, compromise becomes the language you speak every single day. And compromise is not always a bad thing. Do not misunderstand me. But there is a quiet cost to it that adds up slowly over the years. A color you did not choose, a piece of furniture that was never your taste, a corner of your own house that never quite felt like yours. Little surrenders, one after another, until you look around and realize the space you live in tells everyone else's story but your own. Living alone ended all of that for me. Every decision in this home is mine. The curtains I finally bought in that shade of deep blue I had wanted for 30 years. Mine. The reading lamp positioned exactly where my eyes need it. Mine. The complete and utter absence of a television in my bedroom because I find it disturbing to my sleep. Mine. Nobody negotiated me out of a single one of those choices. And what happens when your home becomes truly, honestly yours is that you start to feel more truly, honestly yourself inside of it. The walls stop being just walls. They become a reflection, a portrait, the most accurate picture of who you are that has ever existed anywhere. Your home should tell your story, my dear, and when you live alone, it finally, beautifully does. Now here is something I did not expect, something that caught me completely off guard when I first began living alone, and something I want to share with you because I think it will surprise you just as much as it surprised me. My friendships got better, not just a little better, genuinely, deeply, profoundly better. And I want you to understand why, because the reason matters. When I lived surrounded by family, surrounded by the beautiful, consuming business of a full household, I rarely reached out to my friends. I had company already, you see. There was always someone in the next room, always a conversation at the dinner table, always a presence nearby. And so without even realizing it, without meaning to at all, I let some of the most important women in my life drift quietly to the edges. A phone call here and there, a birthday card when I remembered, nothing more. Living alone changed all of that, immediately and completely. Now I call Martha every single Tuesday. We have not missed a Tuesday in 2 years. We talk about everything and nothing, her garden, my crosswords, old memories that make us laugh until we have to catch our breath. Those Tuesday calls have become one of the true anchors of my week, something I look forward to with genuine, childlike excitement. I write letters, real letters, with a proper pen and a stamp and an envelope, to my dear friend Dorothy in Georgia. Dorothy and I went to the same church for 15 years and somehow let life pull us apart. Living alone reminded me that I missed her. So I sat down one afternoon and I wrote to her. 4 pages. She wrote back 6. We have been writing ever since, and I treasure every single page she sends me like it is a small gift arriving in my mailbox. I host a small Sunday lunch once a month for women just like me. We sit around that table in my dining room, the one with the blue curtains letting the afternoon light in, and we talk, and we eat, and we laugh, and sometimes we cry a little too. And every single one of those women leaves my home feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling like she matters to someone who genuinely chose to spend time with her. And that word, chose, is everything. Because when you live alone, every relationship in your life becomes a conscious, deliberate, beautiful choice. Nobody drifts into your living room by accident. Nobody sits at your table simply because they happen to share your address. Every person you welcome into your space, you have reached out to. You have called. You have written. You have invited. And that intention, that active, loving decision to invest in another person, transforms a friendship into something extraordinary. So no, my dear, living alone does not make you lonely. It makes you intentional. And intentional love, the kind you choose freely, the kind you tend carefully, is the most genuine, nourishing, soul-filling kind there is. And those friendships, those intentional, chosen, carefully tended relationships, they do something else for you too. They remind you that you matter, that your well-being matters, that the woman inside this body deserves to be looked after. And that brings me to something I want to speak about very honestly today, something that took me far too long to learn, and something I refuse to let you leave here without hearing. When you live alone, you finally start taking care of yourself properly, truly properly, not as an afterthought, not as whatever energy is left over after everyone else has been attended to, but as the first priority, the main responsibility, the most important job in the house. Because here is the truth I lived for 50 years and am not ashamed to admit. When you are responsible for others, when you are a mother, a grandmother, a caretaker, a wife, a neighbor always ready to help, you put yourself last. You do it automatically, almost without thinking, because that is what women of our generation were taught to do. We were taught that selflessness was a virtue, and in many ways it is. But there is a version of selflessness that quietly becomes self-neglect, and most of us cross that line so gradually we never even noticed. I noticed it the first winter I lived alone. I had a cough that had been bothering me for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And in any other season of my life I would have pushed through it, told myself it was nothing, kept moving for everyone else's sake. But that winter, there was no one else. There was only me. And something about that, something about being the only person in that house who could decide whether I got better or got worse, made me pick up the phone and call my doctor the very next morning. That was the moment something shifted permanently. Now I take my medications without forgetting, because there is no distraction pulling me away from the routine I built for myself. I go to every single doctor appointment, not rescheduled, not postponed, not sacrificed for someone else's convenience, every one of them kept on time, with my questions written down on a little notepad I bring in my purse. I sleep 8 hours because I finally stopped feeling guilty about needing 8 hours. I eat what genuinely nourishes this body, not what is quickest to prepare for a crowd, not the leftovers, not whatever was easiest, but what my body actually needs and what my taste actually enjoys. I go for that walk after lunch, not because anyone is waiting for me, but because my heart needs it, and my joints feel better for it, and the fresh air does something for my spirit that no medicine ever could. And I want you to hear this without any guilt attached to it, because some of you are going to resist this idea. Taking care of yourself first is not selfish. It is not indulgent. It is not something you need to earn or justify or apologize for. It is simply what a wise woman does when she finally understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup. Living alone handed me back my own cup, and every single day I make sure it is full. Your body kept you going through every hard season of your life. It deserves your attention now. It deserves your gratitude. And living alone, beautifully, intentionally alone, finally gives you the space and the silence and the freedom to give it exactly that. And when your body is cared for, when your friendships are tended, when your home reflects your soul and your time belongs entirely to you, something else begins to bloom. Something so quiet and so personal that most people never even talk about it. Something that I believe is one of the greatest hidden gifts of living alone at this stage of life. You discover the joy of your own company. And I do not mean that in a small way. I mean it in the fullest, richest, most surprising way imaginable. Because there is a difference, a profound and important difference, between loneliness and solitude. And until I began living alone, I do not think I truly understood where one ended and the other began. Loneliness is a feeling of invisibility. It is sitting in a crowded room and feeling unseen. It is reaching for connection and finding nothing to hold on to. I have felt loneliness in my life, and I want to be honest about that. But I have almost never felt it inside my own home, living my own quiet life on my own unhurried terms. Solitude is something else entirely. Solitude is sitting on your porch as the sun goes down and feeling so completely at ease with the world and with yourself that you would not trade that moment for any crowded, noisy, busy alternative. It is presence. It is fullness. It is being so genuinely comfortable in your own skin that silence does not frighten you. It nourishes you. I have spent entire evenings reading a novel with nothing but a single candle burning on the table beside me, the house perfectly still, the night settling in around the windows. And I have felt in those moments a contentment so deep and so steady that it almost startled me the first time I recognized it for what it was. I have danced in my kitchen, by myself, to music from 1965 that came on the radio and grabbed me by the heart before I even knew what was happening. I pushed back from the counter and I moved around that kitchen floor and I laughed out loud, not for anyone, not for an audience, but purely because the joy of that moment demanded some kind of expression, and dancing was the only language available. I have laughed at my own thoughts, sitting in my rocking chair on a Tuesday afternoon. Just a thought that wandered through my mind and struck me as funny and made me smile, and then laugh, and then sit there grinning at nobody in particular, completely content, completely at peace, completely myself, and that ease, that warmth, that genuine delight in your own presence is something that living alone teaches you slowly and then all at once. You stop needing noise to fill the silence. You stop reaching for distraction to avoid your own thoughts. You start to realize that your own mind is actually wonderful company, that your own memories are rich and worth revisiting, that your own imagination is still alive and still playful and still capable of entertaining you beautifully on any given afternoon. When you learn to truly enjoy your own company, not tolerate it, not endure it, but genuinely enjoy it, you become the best companion you have ever had. You carry that companion with you everywhere you go. You are never truly without good company again. That is not something everyone discovers. But women who live alone, who have the courage to sit with themselves in the quiet, we know this joy. We know it intimately. And once you find it, my dear, you will wonder how you ever lived without it. And now we have arrived at the one that means the most to me. The one I saved for last because I wanted you to be fully with me when I said it. I wanted everything else we talked about today. The peace, the routine, the strength, the home that finally reflects your soul, the friendships that grew deeper, the self-care you finally claimed, the joy of your own beautiful company. I wanted all of that sitting in your heart before I told you this last thing. Because this last benefit is not just about you. It reaches far beyond you. It touches every woman who has ever watched you from a distance and wondered whether she could do it too. When you live alone with grace, when you wake up every morning in your own home, on your own terms, and you carry yourself with dignity and warmth and quiet confidence, you become something this world desperately needs more of. You become living proof. You become the evidence that a woman does not need to be surrounded by others to be complete. You become the answer to every younger woman who lies awake at night, terrified of what her future might look like if she ends up alone. You become the walking, breathing, laughing, thriving response to every voice that ever whispered that a woman living alone is something to be pitied, something to be rescued, something lesser than what she could have been. Your granddaughter is watching you. Maybe she does not say it. Maybe she does not even fully realize it herself. But she is watching how you handle a difficult morning. She is watching how you speak about your life, whether you speak about it with shame or whether you speak about it with pride. She is watching whether you shrink or whether you stand tall. And what she sees in you today is shaping what she believes is possible for herself tomorrow. The younger woman next door is watching you, the one who smiles at you over the fence and asks how you are doing. She is filing away every answer you give her. She is noticing whether your eyes are alive, whether your laughter is real, whether you seem like a woman who has lost something or a woman who has found something, the widow down the street who is newly alone and absolutely terrified. She is watching you most carefully of all, because you are a few steps ahead of where she is standing right now. And the way you walk those steps, the way you hold your head, the way you tend your garden and host your Sunday lunches and write your letters and dance in your kitchen, every single bit of it is speaking to her in a language louder than any words you could ever say directly. You are telling her, without opening your mouth, that it is going to be all right. That life on the other side of fear is not just survivable, but genuinely, unexpectedly beautiful. And that is an act of profound generosity. That is a gift you are giving to women you may never even know are receiving it. Simply by living your life honestly and fully and without apology, you are lighting a path that others can follow when they are ready. So never underestimate what your life is saying to the world around you. Never think for a single moment that because you live alone, your life has become smaller or quieter or less significant. It has become a testimony. And testimonies, my dear, have the power to change lives. The world will try to make you feel like living alone means something is missing. They will offer you pity when what you deserve is applause, because it takes courage to build a life on your own foundation. It takes strength to wake up every morning and choose yourself. It takes wisdom to know that silence is not absence. It is presence, your own presence, the most important kind. So the next time someone looks at you with those sad eyes and says, "Oh, you live alone," you look right back at them, you stand tall, and you say, "Yes, and it is one of the greatest gifts I have ever given myself." Now, if this video touched something in you today, subscribe to Wisdom of Age right now. Because there is so much more I want to share with you, so many more conversations like this one waiting for us. And I would hate for a single word meant for your heart to find you too late.
Many elders sit quietly in our homes, carrying a lifetime of wisdom no one asks about. I share my grandmother's experiences here, so those lessons are never lost. If this touched you, subscribe and pass it on to someone who needs it.